Hello, miladies of inestimable value. She mastered the art of staying soft in a world that rewards cruelty and learned to kill illusions without ever raising her voice. They say every Sigma female walks through life like a paradox wrapped in elegance. But what most people don't realize is that she's not just living one life, she's living two entirely different existences inside one body. One side prays for peace, the other prepares for war. One meditates, the other calculates. It's not a split personality, it's survival architecture. Psychologists call it dual adaptation, where the mind evolves to operate in conflicting modes just to stay functional in chaos. But for a Sigma female, it's not dysfunction, it's her genius. She's both the monk who observes the storm and the mercenary who decides when to strike lightning back. And don't be fooled by her calm. That's not serenity, that's discipline wearing a silk robe. She's the kind of woman who'll smile while mentally reorganizing her entire life to exclude your nonsense. You could mistake it for peace, but it's actually a tactical retreat. This is the duality most people will never understand, the sacred and the savage coexisting seamlessly. So today, we're peeling back the layers of the Sigma female's most secret existence. The monk and the mercenary. Two lives, one body, and a soul that refuses to choose between peace and power. Number 1. Her confidence comes from knowing she can survive without anyone. Her confidence doesn't come from loudness, beauty, or validation. It comes from something far rarer, the knowledge that she can survive without anyone. It's not arrogance, it's a deep peace born from surviving emotional famine. She's been abandoned, misunderstood, betrayed, and underestimated. And through it all, she learned a truth most people spend a lifetime avoiding. No one is coming to save her. That realization didn't break her. It liberated her. The monk in her taught her to breathe through the silence, to find peace when the world offered none. When everyone disappeared, she built inner temples instead of burning bridges. She discovered that solitude wasn't punishment. It was her rebirth. She stopped seeing loneliness as emptiness and started seeing it as space. Space to think, rebuild, and outgrow the versions of herself that once begged to be chosen. Then came the mercenary, the part of her that turned that peace into power. She used the lessons from her solitude as armor. Now, she doesn't need reassurance to feel secure, and she doesn't need attention to feel alive. She doesn't chase connections anymore. She filters them. If someone walks away, she doesn't collapse. She recalculates. If something ends, she doesn't mourn endlessly. She restructures. Her detachment isn't cold, it's efficient. When people try to control her through affection or approval, it never works. You can't manipulate someone who's already learned how to be alone. That's her quiet strength. She's unbuyable, unbribable, and emotionally self-sufficient. She's not looking for someone to complete her. She's looking for someone who can coexist without chaos. And that makes her unpredictable, even intimidating, because dependence has no hold on her anymore. Every time she rebuilds herself after being broken, a new version of her emerges, calmer, sharper, and more selective. That's why her confidence feels unshakable. It's not a performance, it's experience. She knows she's already faced the worst version of silence and made it her sanctuary. So when she walks through life now, there's no desperation left, only direction. And that's the kind of woman you can't possess. Only respect. Number 2. She lives in paradox and calls it home. She lives in paradox and calls it home. That's the secret people can't decode about her. Most spend their lives trying to choose between peace and power, kindness and strength, calm and chaos, but she doesn't choose. She embodies both and lets them coexist like two rival gods under one skin. The monk in her craves stillness, quiet mornings, emotional clarity. The mercenary, though, feeds on challenge, strategy, and controlled confrontation. Together, they make her one of the most unpredictable forces to encounter, serene one second, surgical the next. Her duality isn't confusion, it's balance engineered through pain. She's seen what happens when she leans too far into softness. People take advantage. She's seen what happens when she leans too far into hardness. She starts to lose herself. So, she learned to bend both worlds to her rhythm. She can meditate in the morning and dismantle manipulation by evening. She can forgive with grace and still walk away without a word. She knows when to pray and when to play the psychological chessboard of survival. That dual energy makes her untouchable in ways others can't grasp. The monk in her stops her from becoming bitter. The mercenary stops her from becoming naive. She can be deeply empathetic without being easily fooled and fiercely independent without becoming emotionally numb. She's learned that purity without power is dangerous. It attracts predators. And power without purity is poison. It corrodes the soul. So she keeps both leashed, disciplined, and loyal to her purpose. This is why she unsettles people. They can't categorize her. She's too peaceful to be labeled ruthless, too sharp to be labeled gentle. Her energy switches frequency depending on the environment, always aware, always one move ahead. What others call contradictions, she calls strategy, because she's not trying to fit into one narrative. She's living in the tension between two truths, where the monk keeps her soul grounded and the mercenary keeps her world protected. And that's the paradox that makes her unstoppable. She doesn't chase balance. She is balance, forged in duality, walking the fine line between serenity and power without ever falling off. Number 3. She forgives, but she never forgets the blueprint of betrayal. She has a way of letting go without letting go entirely. When someone betrays her, the monk within steps forward first, offering forgiveness, not because the other person deserves it, but because she deserves her own peace. She refuses to carry unnecessary weight, refuse the calm she's fought to build. But while she forgives, the mercenary inside is quietly taking notes, recording every nuance of the deception, the tone, the timing, the weakness she can never allow herself to encounter again. She doesn't hold grudges the way ordinary people do. She doesn't replay the hurt to punish herself or obsess over revenge. Instead, she stores it as data, a blueprint of human behavior she can reference whenever a situation threatens her stability. Each betrayal becomes a lesson in pattern recognition, a map of who can be trusted, who can't, and how to navigate the gray spaces in between. That combination of mercy and vigilance makes her unpredictable and formidable. People assume forgiveness equals vulnerability, but for her, it's strategic. She can move forward without being blind, trusting without being naive, loving without being exposed. She's emotionally intelligent in a way that feels almost surgical, precise, measured, and deliberate. No one can slip past her twice because she has already memorized the architecture of their actions. Every betrayal leaves a permanent mark on her internal map, not as a scar that weakens her, but as a marker that strengthens her defenses. That's why she appears serene and detached, even after being wronged. She's not numb, she's prepared. She has taken what could have destroyed her and transformed it into knowledge, power, and unshakable foresight. In her world, forgiveness and vigilance are not opposites. They are complementary forces. She can release the weight of pain while simultaneously arming herself against its repeat occurrence. That duality is what makes her both human and untouchable, capable of peace without compromise and resilience without bitterness. Number 4. Her silence isn't peace, it's ammunition loading. Her silence isn't a sign of surrender or serenity, it's a weapon in disguise. Most people hear her quietness and assume she's passive, calm, or even disengaged. They misread it as harmlessness, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Every pause, every measured breath is a moment of internal strategy. The monk in her observes, analyzing motives, detecting energy, mapping patterns. Every detail of the situation is filed away, examined, and understood. Meanwhile, the mercenary doesn't just observe. She calculates consequences, predicts reactions, and plans the optimal moment to act. By the time she finally speaks, she's already won battles no one else even realized existed. Conflicts that could have caught others off guard are neutralized before they start. Arguments are dismantled with a single phrase. Decisions are influenced without overt force, and manipulation is countered before it even lands. Her quietness is not emptiness. It's a charging station for power, a rehearsal room for strategy, a place where her mind sharpens itself like a blade. People rarely recognize the energy that hums beneath her silence. It's invisible, lethal, and disciplined. Her calm demeanor masks the storms she's weathered and the precision with which she navigates life. That combination of observation and calculated response makes her unpredictably formidable. She doesn't need to announce her presence to dominate a room, and she doesn't need to escalate to prove authority. Her quiet is not weakness. It's intelligence, patience, and power, all folded into one. She has mastered the art of using stillness as a prelude to action. While the world rushes to speak, react, or overcommit, she sits, measures, and moves with precision. That is why her silence unnerves others. It is not empty. It is loaded, dangerous, and entirely under her control. Those who mistake it for peace are often the first to realize too late that they've already been outmaneuvered. Number 5. She craves depth but tests for power. First, she doesn't hand over her heart like a gift. She evaluates it like an investment. The monk in her is drawn to depth, meaningful conversations, authentic connections, and emotional intimacy that goes beyond surface-level interactions. But the mercenary ensures she never exposes that vulnerability without first assessing the terrain. She studies your energy, your intentions, and your capacity to stand without breaking under scrutiny. She doesn't fall into love blindly, because she knows that doing so without understanding the balance of power is dangerous. For her, love without leverage isn't affection. It's slavery. She refuses to surrender herself to someone who can take without giving, manipulate without conscience, or crumble under pressure. Before she opens her soul, she quietly tests for strength, integrity, and resilience. Every interaction is a subtle evaluation. Every word, gesture, and action is measured. She's patient because she knows that the truth always reveals itself. Weakness cannot hide from her for long. When she finally decides to invest emotionally, it's deliberate, precise, and meaningful. She doesn't waste energy on fleeting connections or performative loyalty. Her attachments are selective, based on respect, reciprocity, and the understanding that she is never the weaker party. The monk desires connection, but the mercenary ensures that the connection won't cost her autonomy or compromise her power. This combination of curiosity and caution makes her magnetic, yet untouchable. People are drawn to her depth, but only those who can withstand the test of her discernment get close. She doesn't just seek love, she seeks a partnership that doesn't threaten her, a union where mutual respect and strength coexist. And anyone who underestimates the mercenary lurking beneath the monk's gentle exterior quickly learns that her trust is earned, never given freely. Number 6. She believes in karma, because she's often the instrument of it. She doesn't chase revenge, and she doesn't need to. The monk in her believes the universe has a natural order, that actions eventually return to their origin. She trusts that karma exists, that people will reap what they sow, and that life has a way of balancing itself out. But the mercenary knows the world isn't always patient, and she isn't either. When justice drags its feet, she becomes the hand that delivers it, precise and inevitable. She doesn't act out of cruelty, she acts out of calibration. If someone's betrayal, deceit, or selfishness threatens her or others she respects, she doesn't stand idle. She positions herself in ways that let the consequences unfold naturally, while simultaneously ensuring that the outcome serves as a lesson. She understands cause and effect on a human scale better than most. Her interventions are never chaotic, they are surgical, and she is unapologetically direct. She'll allow people the freedom to make their own mistakes, but she won't hesitate to expose the truth or create circumstances that reveal it faster. She's the rare combination of patience and decisiveness. While the monk forgives for serenity, the mercenary ensures that forgiveness doesn't equal vulnerability. She doesn't just watch karma happen, she sometimes accelerates it, handing the hammer to those who need it before they even realize the consequences are theirs to bear. That's what makes her so unsettling. People expect kindness to be blind and justice to be slow, but she refuses to conform. Her sense of timing is flawless, and her actions, though restrained, are unforgettable. She wields morality like a scalpel, knowing when to let the universe act and when she needs to intervene herself. The result is a balance few can comprehend. A woman who can embody mercy and menace at the same time, and whose sense of justice is as natural as breathing. She doesn't punish out of hatred. She orchestrates outcomes that force clarity, accountability, and inevitability. In her presence, people learn quickly that karma is no longer a distant concept. It can arrive quietly, or she can make sure it arrives exactly when it should. Number 7. She's obsessed with mastery, not perfection. She doesn't chase perfection, she chases mastery, and that makes all the difference. The monk within her is relentless about refining herself, her mind, her habits, her understanding of the world. Every thought is examined, every flaw acknowledged, and every lesson integrated. This is not vanity, it's discipline. She's committed to becoming a stronger, sharper version of herself every day. The mercenary complements this by focusing on outcomes, on getting results, achieving objectives, and navigating life with precision. She doesn't just want to look capable, she wants to be indispensable. Perfection is a lie that leaves people vulnerable to failure and disappointment. She recognizes this, which is why she doesn't aim for flawless, she aims for control. She wants to understand the rules of every environment she enters, anticipate the moves of everyone around her, and position herself where she cannot be ignored or replaced. Her obsession isn't with appearances, it's with influence, competence, and the ability to operate at a level where her absence would be noticeable. That's why she's unshakable. Mediocrity doesn't faze her, and criticism doesn't derail her. She's too focused on her own evolution to compete for external approval, and too committed to her internal standards to be swayed by superficial expectations. The monk sharpens her mind, the mercenary sharpens her strategy, and together they create someone who cannot be casually overlooked. She is precise without rigidity, adaptable without compromise, and ambitious without desperation. Being replaceable is a concept she cannot tolerate, and that's why she isn't. Her mastery makes her rare, her presence necessary, and her energy impossible to ignore. People may try to define her by perfection, but she's already operating on an entirely different plane, one where skill, awareness, and control outweigh all illusions of flawlessness. Number 8. Her love feels safe until you cross her boundaries. Her love is not casual, and it is not cheap. The monk in her approaches relationships with patience, gentleness, and care, offering warmth that feels rare and grounding. She listens deeply, invests meaningfully, and creates a space where people can feel seen without judgment. With her, love feels safe, like a harbor in a storm. But that safety is not unconditional. The mercenary inside is always watching, always measuring, always aware of boundaries. Respect is the currency of her heart, and when it is violated, she reacts with precision and finality. There is no negotiation, no pleading, no slow fade. The bridge that once connected her to someone who betrayed that trust is burned without hesitation. She forgives for her own peace, but her love cannot be reclaimed once it's desecrated. Crossing her boundaries is not just a mistake. It is a lesson she ensures is irreversible. People may think her detachment afterward is cruelty, but it is actually discipline and self-preservation. She knows the cost of allowing her heart to be disregarded, and she refuses to pay it twice. Her love is sacred, and she treats it as such. She nurtures it, protects it, and deploys it only where it is valued. This combination of nurturing and ruthlessness makes her unpredictable and formidable. She can hold you with warmth and grace one moment, and remove herself entirely the next, leaving no ambiguity. She doesn't punish out of spite. She protects what is precious, her peace, her energy, and the integrity of her heart. Her love is not a test, it's a covenant, and once it is broken, it cannot be reissued. To be loved by her is to experience depth, safety, and sincerity. To betray that love is to witness her merciless efficiency in cutting ties, ensuring her heart remains untouchable. She is both sanctuary and sentinel, a duality that makes her love extraordinary and entirely uncompromising. Number 9. She understands that power and purity aren't opposites. She knows that power and purity don't cancel each other out. They amplify each other. She prays with sincerity, meditates with intention, and carries a sense of moral clarity that guides her choices. That's the monk in her, spiritual, disciplined, reflective. But she also wields influence, strategy, and authority with lethal precision. That's the mercenary. She can protect what's sacred and dismantle what's corrupt with the same quiet efficiency, and she never confuses one for the other. Her duality isn't a contradiction. It's an evolved form of balance. The world expects women to be one thing or the other, holy or dangerous, soft or strong. She refuses to conform. She occupies both spaces simultaneously, and it unsettles anyone who tries to categorize her. Her prayers are not weakness, her strategies are not cruelty. She has integrated both sides into a single formidable presence. She moves through life knowing that morality and power are tools, not limits. She can defend her values fiercely without being naive, and she can assert authority without being immoral. That combination makes her unpredictable, magnetic, and untouchable. People underestimate her because they try to separate her essence into categories, but she exists beyond them. Being both holy and dangerous isn't hypocrisy, it's mastery. She doesn't have to compromise her ethics to wield influence, nor does she need to sacrifice her strength to be compassionate. That's why she commands respect effortlessly. She embodies a kind of authority that the world isn't built to contain. She is a paradox, yes, but a deliberate one, and in her presence, everyone quickly learns that balance can be more powerful than extremes. Number 10. She doesn't chase revenge. She redesigns reality. She doesn't chase revenge because she understands that bitterness is heavy and inefficient. The monk in her forgives, not for them, but for herself, to keep her mind clear and her energy intact. She refuses to be consumed by anger or to let grudges dictate her actions. But the mercenary within her doesn't rely on patience or chance alone. She doesn't retaliate in obvious ways. She doesn't confront you with noise or drama. Instead, she redesigns the landscape around her until those who caused harm have no place within it. She moves like a strategist rather than a reactive player. If someone betrays her, manipulates her, or underestimates her, she doesn't waste time plotting retaliation. She alters the dynamics, changes the alliances, and shifts the terrain so that their influence is gone, their leverage neutralized. They might still exist in the world, but in her world, they no longer matter. She doesn't seek to hurt them back. She seeks to erase their capacity to hurt her again. This is why she's so dangerous. It's invisible, deliberate, and permanent. Her responses aren't fueled by emotion, but by foresight. She doesn't waste energy on battles that don't change the outcome. She rewrites the rules so that the outcome is already in her favor. The monk keeps her grounded, preventing her from becoming cold or vindictive, while the mercenary ensures she remains untouchable and sovereign. In essence, she transforms the consequences of betrayal into strategic advantage. She doesn't retaliate, she evolves. She doesn't fight, she reconstructs. By the time anyone realizes what has happened, she has already moved forward, stronger, untethered, and completely beyond their reach. Her world becomes a reflection of her resilience and intelligence, a place where harm cannot stick, and power is always on her side. Number 11. Her empathy has an expiration date. She feels more than most, but she doesn't let her heart become a hostage. The monk in her is capable of profound empathy, able to understand pain, forgive mistakes, and extend compassion beyond what seems reasonable. She can hold space for people, nurture, and offer understanding without hesitation. But the mercenary knows that empathy without limits is vulnerability waiting to be exploited. She sets boundaries, invisible but unbreakable, and once those limits are crossed, her patience has a strict expiration date. She gives chances, but they aren't infinite. Every misstep, every breach of trust is measured carefully. The monk may hope for growth, for remorse, for change. The mercenary watches the clock. When the deadline passes, her decision is final. Once she decides that someone's access to her heart, her energy, or her life is revoked, it's absolute. There's no begging, no pleading, no second chance. Even the most sincere apologies cannot reopen a door she has closed. Her empathy is strategic, not indiscriminate. It allows her to connect deeply while remaining untouchable. People are drawn to her warmth and understanding, not realizing that crossing her boundaries transforms that same energy into impenetrable walls. Her kindness is precious, and she protects it fiercely. Those who abuse it find themselves outside her orbit permanently, often before they even realize the severity of their loss. This duality makes her both approachable and untouchable at the same time. She can love, nurture, and support with unmatched intensity, yet she can cut ties decisively and without remorse when necessary. Her heart is a sanctuary, but not a playground. Her empathy enriches relationships, but it's never a liability. And that is what makes her presence both magnetic and formidable. A force of understanding tempered with unyielding self-respect, where even the highest powers cannot undo what she has firmly decided. Number 12. She practices emotional minimalism. She doesn't accumulate unnecessary emotional weight. The monk in her knows that clutter clouds judgment, drains energy, and distorts perspective. So she constantly clears her mind, letting go of feelings that serve no purpose and focusing only on what matters. She doesn't dwell on past hurts, petty drama, or meaningless attachments. Every thought, every emotion is filtered through a lens of utility and truth. The mercenary complements this by policing her environment. People who create chaos, drain her energy, or disrespect her boundaries aren't tolerated. She removes them without hesitation, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Her life is not designed to accommodate mediocrity, manipulation, or toxicity. Every relationship, every interaction, every connection must have clarity, value, or mutual respect. Otherwise, it's removed from her orbit. She doesn't need a crowd to validate her existence or inflate her ego. She needs focus, alignment, and freedom. That minimalism isn't emptiness, it's power. By keeping her emotional space clean and her connections meaningful, she walks through life unburdened, moving with precision and intent. She isn't distracted by drama or weighed down by expectations, which makes her presence sharp, magnetic, and undeniably dangerous. This combination of internal clarity and external curation gives her an almost untouchable quality. She can enter any situation, assess it instantly, and act decisively because she isn't encumbered by irrelevant emotions or draining influences. Her energy is concentrated, her mind uncluttered, and her instincts unclouded. In essence, she embodies emotional minimalism. She feels deeply, invests wisely, and discards ruthlessly. That's why she moves through life light, agile, and formidable, leaving a trail of intrigue wherever she goes. People may underestimate her calm, but it is not passivity. It is control, clarity, and a quiet dominance born from a life stripped of everything unnecessary. Every Sigma female is a study in paradox, a living contradiction that the world struggles to understand. She houses the monk and the mercenary in one body, and that duality is what makes her extraordinary. One side nurtures, forgives, and seeks clarity, while the other calculates, protects, and enforces boundaries with ruthless precision. She is both sanctuary and sentinel, peace and power, empathy and strategy, all coexisting in ways that most people can't even begin to comprehend. Her strength is subtle, her influence invisible, until it becomes undeniable, and her presence unforgettable because she doesn't seek attention. She commands it without effort. She doesn't just survive life, she masters it. Every betrayal, every challenge, every human flaw she encounters becomes a lesson, a tool, or a stepping stone. Her silence is not emptiness, her love is not weakness, and her detachment is not coldness. Every part of her is intentional, every reaction measured, every decision calculated. She doesn't bend to expectation or compromise her essence to please the world. Instead, she transforms her experiences into mastery, her boundaries into armor, and her duality into a force that can't be ignored. What makes her truly captivating is that she is unpredictable without being reckless, empathetic without being naive, and powerful without being cruel. She moves through life like a quiet storm, serene and invisible until the moment her presence is impossible to overlook. She is rare, magnetic, and untouchable because she doesn't merely adapt. She evolves, reshapes reality, and leaves those around her forever altered by her depth. To witness a Sigma female in her full duality is to understand that strength doesn't always roar, and wisdom doesn't always speak. She is both monk and mercenary, protector and strategist, lover and judge, a paradox that exists in perfect balance, a force of nature clothed in human form. If this insight into the Sigma female's extraordinary life resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content that dives deep into the minds of the rare and exceptional. Like, comment, and share this video so others can see what it truly means to be a woman who lives two lives in one body, powerful, disciplined, and unstoppable.